Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar dedicated to Google Cloud. In today's session, I'm going to walk through how you can build a cost-conscious culture with FinOps. Quick agenda here. I'll go into an overview of FinOps and then follow up with some details about Ternary, the company I work for. To begin, I want to explain the difference between cost management and FinOps. Cost management, cloud financial management, cloud spend management, FinOps, all of these terms are often used interchangeably in the market, but we actually find that they're distinct practices. So cost management came about over a decade ago when public cloud adoption really started to take off. It ended up being more of a reactive approach to your cloud bill at the end of the month. The oh no moment, you overshot your budget again. And so it was really reactive. And as a result, many companies put in place a mandate on reducing cloud spend and achieving cost savings. And there are many, tactical approaches that came out of this, technical capabilities and activities to identify the low-hanging fruit, such as terminating idle or unused instances. But then around the time of the pandemic, FinOps was born. And so the key distinction between cost management and FinOps is that FinOps is intended to be a more proactive and collaborative approach. And while yes, companies who have a FinOps practice still care about cost savings, the focus is actually on making money for their business and being more strategic in the decisions that are being made regarding the cloud investments. And it has to be mentioned that FinOps is a collaborative approach across multiple personas. And so you need inputs from both technical and business teams. Everyone has a role to play, whether you're a platform engineer, cloud architect, financial analyst, executive, or product owner, you need to care about FinOps and your cloud spend. FinOps practitioners are a relatively new term in the market, and I like to think of it as more of an umbrella term, a catch-all, so to speak. And this term spans both technical and business-oriented personas and teams. Now, you'll see in the market that there are new job titles emerging, FinOps lead, FinOps architect. They're becoming more common, and I expect that will continue to be the way up forward. But many practitioners don't have FinOps in their job title. You'll also have personas that are supporting the FinOps practice that aren't included here as well. So your procurement teams are helping negotiate those cloud provider contracts. Your security organization, making sure your spending data is secure and the platforms you are using are capable of maintaining your security requirements. All of these roles together help to collaborate and work on the FinOps practice. So I don't know about you all, but we've seen this conversation played out a few times with many of our customers. Again, the traditional get the cloud bill at the end of the month, you overshot your budget. How do you explain that deviation to your finance team if you're in engineering? Or if you're in finance, how do you understand the impact of that decision and why that cloud investment was necessary in that additional consumption? Based on the State of FinOps report, which is essentially a survey of the FinOps community produced by the FinOps Foundation, these are the common challenges that organizations are seeing this year. You'll notice the first two items here really pertain to optimization. So as I mentioned before, savings is still top of mind for many organizations, but it's not the only concern. We also have to focus on the collaborative elements. And you'll notice the other four bullets on this slide pertain to different groups within the organization. FinOps, traditionally has been spearheaded by, engineering and operations personas, but finance is now really claiming a seat at the table as well. And so accurate forecasting of spend, full allocation of cloud spending, becoming very important to businesses. But also the organizational adoption of FinOps. So I may sound like a broken record by the end of this session, but it truly needs to be a collaborative practice. And getting engineers to take action. So if your FinOps organization is driven by the operations teams who are surfacing findings and driving guidelines and best practices, you'll want the engineers to take action on those right-sizing opportunities, on purchasing those committed discounts. The ideal state of the union here, getting all of these stakeholders together at the table in the same meetings. And this should really be done on a consistent basis. Now, The consistency may vary in cadence by your organization. Perhaps you'll get all these folks together monthly, perhaps it's quarterly, or maybe it's annually. But whether you have a small FinOps team or a large FinOps team, dedicated personnel, you'll want to work cross-functionally across all these stakeholders and essentially bridge those operational gaps. So wouldn't it be great if you could increase efficiency, optimize those costs, be more accurate with your forecasting models, drive accountability? These are all of the goals that organizations and customers we work with are telling us that they want in a FinOps practice. So how do you get there? You need to make FinOps part of your cloud operating model. And so FinOps has three phases of a life cycle: inform, optimize, and operate. Inform is essentially understanding who's spending money, what are they spending it on, how you can allocate those costs across teams that are consuming those services. It's really setting the foundation for your entire FinOps practice. Good hygiene in the beginning will go a long way. Optimization, so getting into rates such as commitment-based discounts, committed use discounts, sustained use discounts, and usage, whether that's right sizing or terminating idle instances. There's a lot of work to be done on the optimization side of the life cycle. Now, I do want to stress again, FinOps is not just about cost savings. It's about making money for your business. So while the savings opportunities are important, this whole life cycle needs to work in unison, and it's a continuous cycle. So once you go through it once, inform through operate, you're not done. You'll go again and again as you mature your FinOps practice over time and focus on different capabilities and use cases that your organization requires. Last but certainly not least is the operate phase, really focusing on how you manage the FinOps practice, driving consistent policies and guidelines across your organization. Here's our recipe for success. Start with people and building that centralized FinOps team. Whether you have one person in your organization dedicated to FinOps or a dozen people dedicated to FinOps, it's important that all of these stakeholders across the various departments, finance, engineering, operations, and the supporting personas, security, procurement, and so on, are all working together in unison towards the same goals. You all want to know how your cloud investments drive your business outcomes. Next is process. The FinOps Foundation is an independent third-party organization, nonprofit, who has worked with members across the community to build and develop what is known as the FinOps framework. I highly encourage you to learn the FinOps framework, understand the different capabilities and use cases that go along with it. And last but not least, for your cloud operating model is the technology. And so there are many tools out there in the market now that help you manage costs, but few of those tools are, what we would consider to be a FinOps-native platform. And so there are companies and tools that are homegrown solutions, the native consoles, spreadsheets, business intelligence tools, point solutions that are perhaps solving a specific use case, such as Kubernetes management or commitment management. But really look for a holistic platform depending on your use case and get one that is FinOps certified by the foundation. And that brings us to Ternary. Ternary is a FinOps native platform and Google Cloud partner. Our founders were FinOps practitioners before founding the company, and they were Google Cloud customers. And they noticed that there was a gap in the market as it pertains to Google Cloud expertise in FinOps. And so that's how Ternary was born. Ternary runs on Google Cloud infrastructure and built for Google Cloud first. It has since extended its support to all leading clouds, but we know Google Cloud customers' pains, use cases, and desires better than the rest of the market. A little bit more about us at a glance. The expertise of the team. So I mentioned our founders were early FinOps practitioners, and members of our team have come from a variety of different vendors in the cost management and FinOps space. We also have a very tight alignment with the FinOps Foundation. As a premier member, we hold a seat on the governing board. We have also adopted and implemented the FinOps Open Cost and Usage Specification, which is really intended to help normalize billing data and schemas across cloud providers. So if you are a multi-cloud customer, something like Focus is very important to evaluate your FinOps platforms against. And we're also trusted by hundreds of customers and managed service providers worldwide. And to date, we have 7 billion in cloud spend under management. I quickly want to bring up AI. Ron mentioned this in the introduction earlier, but AI is a boom right now. It is the next wave of cloud computing, and Google's really at the forefront of it. Coming out of Google Cloud Next this year, we heard a lot about AI. And so with AI, similar to your other cloud investments and expenditures, it has the potential to surge and quickly grow depending on how you're implementing it within your organization and applications. So really get ahead of this surge and start implementing FinOps best practices now so you're not surprised by your bills later on. Let's get back to the FinOps lifecycle. I want to walk through the 3 phases of FinOps and a few best practices in each phase. So starting with the inform phase, really focusing on that cloud cost transparency. Regardless of what tooling you're using, it's really important to define a standard taxonomy and business groupings that you want to report against. In Ternary, we consider these to be called labels. So do you want to be reporting by business unit, by environment, by team leader, application, and so on? And perhaps the answer is yes to all of the above. You'll want to be able to slice and dice this data for different stakeholders in the organization. Perhaps finance wants to see reports broken out by cost center, whereas engineering wants it broken out by environment, for example. You'll also want to visualize and track your financial commitments. So going back to the commitments that the procurement team helped negotiate for your business, agreeing to some sort of enterprise agreement with these different cloud providers, you'll want to track that over time, be able to forecast that spend, and really see what your break-even points are and any deviation from those projections. And you'll want to analyze that data to derive actionable insights. So, whether using just Google Cloud or a combination of clouds, you'll want to understand the costs broken down by your projects, by your environments, and get a holistic view of that information so then you can take an actionable insight from it. Moving on to phase 2 with optimization, really focusing on cost and usage efficiency. So I've mentioned right sizing earlier on. It's a great way to eliminate waste in your environment, and you get a savings benefit from it most of the time. So, a lot of organizations focus with just compute to start. Compute is most often one of the significant expenses in the business, but it's important to right size across databases, storage, Kubernetes as well. And you'll see an example here of Google Kubernetes Engine right sizing. Now, a new capability that is really taking the FinOps space by storm is the sustainability initiatives. And so many organizations are now tying their cloud carbon footprints to their sustainability goals. And so if you have a platform that can track that for you, that will be great. And again, working with additional stakeholders in your organization to collaborate on the practice of FinOps. We always say right size before you reserve. All of the cloud providers, implement different cost savings mechanisms or commitment-based discounts, as they're called, to be able to achieve cost savings benefit. For Google, committed use discounts and sustained use discounts are those mechanisms. Typically a 1-year or 3-year term commitment, some based on spend or resource commitments. A platform like Ternary can help you visualize those commitments and optimize them throughout their life cycle and take a more proactive approach to knowing what your full utilization is, when your commitments are expiring, what your opportunity is for additional coverage. Phase 3, getting into operate and really driving home the fact that we need communication between teams. As you go about your FinOps practice, again, customizing reporting by the various stakeholders is paramount to helping everyone achieve their desired business outcomes. So, for example, a finance persona may not be logging into your tool of choice on a regular basis or at all. But as an engineering or operations team running the FinOps practice, you can create a customized report or dashboard based on their use cases and subscribe that report to them over time. So when you do have your monthly or quarterly check-in regarding the FinOps practice and your projections, everyone has the data they need to have an intellectual conversation. At the end of the day, though, all companies care about profitability. And so unit economics is the way that we can attribute the cloud investment to the business outcomes. Unit economics dashboards can be customized by different businesses. For example, an airline may care about cost per flight reservation, whereas a shoe manufacturer may want to see cost per shoe. There are different outputs and inputs that can be attributed here to define the unit economics for your organization. And lastly, another way to collaborate with your different teams is to create tickets or cases, as we call them with Ternary, to investigate or optimize findings. You'll see in this example here, you can grab data from a FinOps certified platform and query it, assign it to different stakeholders within your team, and collaborate on the ticket. Something that's particularly unique about Ternary is there is a bidirectional integration with Jira. And so if I identify some anomalies in my environment, I can grab this screenshot and tag my Jira platform, create a case, and have the engineering teams take action on that finding. I want to wrap up with what makes Ternary unique. So I've mentioned FinOps platform for Google Cloud. We have been a leader in the FinOps space for quite some time as it pertains to Google cost visibility and optimization. We're one of the only platforms that builds for Google Cloud first, but we do support all major cloud providers. Getting into the phase of FinOps again, it's really important to have those fundamental capabilities to set you up with good hygiene moving forward. So cost allocation and custom labeling are really important to your business. And then being more proactive with cost control mechanisms. So tunable anomaly detection, both machine learning AI powered, as well as human tunable to bypass those algorithms, and the case management workflows that I just talked about in the previous slide. Additionally, you'll want to understand the different deployment options for the tools that you're investigating. So Ternary, something that's unique about us is that we offer a self-hosted version in addition to a SaaS platform. So for organizations who want to maintain more control over their data, they have that flexibility to do so. We also have agentless Kubernetes monitoring. So something that has become quite a frustration point for customers as they work with FinOps platforms and legacy cost management solutions has been deploying an agent to collect this Kubernetes information. With our agentless monitoring, we eliminate some of those headaches. I've mentioned our ability to scale with hundreds of customers worldwide, and I want to wrap here with the fixed pricing and no overages. You may already be surprised by your cloud bills, and we don't want you to be surprised by ours. So we are very straightforward with our pricing models, and if you go over your committed tier, there will not be any additional overage charges. You've heard a lot from me today. I also want to touch base with one of our customer stories here. Rackspace Technology, a worldwide managed services provider who has worked with Ternary for quite some time now. They came to us because they had challenge with their customers managing Google Cloud. And so many of their customers were using a combination of native tooling and Looker to build dashboards, but they really wanted more actionable data. And so they began to search for a solution that was really Google forward. They ultimately partnered with Ternary because we understand the needs of Google customers. Our platform is really intuitive and easy to use for both technical and business personas. We really pride ourselves on having functionality to service finance, operations, and engineering teams. A few takeaways from the session. FinOps goes beyond traditional cost management. Really focus on taking a more proactive approach to your cloud finances as opposed to just waiting for that bill at the end of the month. Join the FinOps community. The community is about 10,000 folks strong at this point, and there's a wealth of knowledge and best practices that can be learned, and go to FinOps.org to get started. And last but not least, Ternary is a leading FinOps platform for Google customers and partners. And we're happy to connect with you after this call if you have any additional questions or want to learn more. And with that, I thank you for your time today.